let me talk a little bit more about what the White House is proposing about getting rid of this part of the 14th Amendment that makes you a citizen when you're born in the country. As I told you before we went to break, the reason they put this in place is because under the precedent of law, Dred Scott would be the law of the land. Under Dred Scott, we are not legal citizens. That's what the ruling was for Dred Scott. He was suing for his freedom because he was in a free state. They said you are considered property, not a citizen of the United States. Thus, you cannot sue for freedom because you're nothing but property. So they put the 14th Amendment in to assure that anybody born here wouldn't be property, they would be a citizen. They put this in place for Black people. Now, let me just touch on some obvious stuff. Somebody said, well, this may be good because it'll force us to build our own. Where? We don't have a nationality at that point. We can't say we're Americans because we're not citizens of America. We can't say we're Africans because we're not citizens. You don't have dual citizenship anywhere. So where do you go to build something or to own something or to be something? You don't have a place to go. You don't. In fact, if they wanted to reinstitute slavery at that point, legally they could because you're considered property. You're considered property. And see, this is the part about this crazy, right? The Democrats had an opportunity to overturn Dred Scott. I don't know if y'all remember this. It was a big movement right when Obama got in office. And the movement was about Dred Scott and reparations. Obama killed the reparations argument, okay? I'm just going to be honest with y'all. He wouldn't even touch it. Wouldn't even touch it. And then with the Dred Scott, it was all over the internet, but people wouldn't touch it. People wouldn't touch it. And what people were saying, and see, that was Joe Madison's crusade. And Joe, once he understood what happened in Dred Scott, he's like, man, we need to change this. I said, I know. So he started taking it on his crusade. So I started talking about it. Sharpton talked about it. We had access to the White House. We go to the White House, talk about it, but nothing was done. Okay. But if this is allowed to happen, now this is the thing. I told you earlier, I love Trump because he's letting us see who America really is. But let me tell you what's really going to show you what America really is. If this is passed, because you do realize in order to change a constitutional amendment, they need 35 of the 50 states to agree to change it. And if that happens, then it becomes the law of the land. Now, let's think about this. Think about how many Republican governors are in this country who have a Republican majority in a particular state. It's about 25 of them, maybe 30. Then you have maybe about another 10 Republican governors who are running for re-election, along with their Republican counterparts in the state. And if Trump tells them he's going to come campaign for him and get his people to come vote for him, how you think they're going to vote? I'm just saying, y'all. You got to look at this in a different light. See, everybody think this is about, see, if you notice the theme of today's show, right? The theme of today's show is they showing you one thing. If Jewish people don't vote for Republicans, they're disloyal. But they really mean another thing. Religious people, we fight for Israel because we believe God is coming back. The Democrats aren't going to do that. They're showing you one thing. We need to stop these immigrants from having their babies here and becoming citizens of the United States. But they really not telling you the other thing. Well, let's kill two birds with one stone because we stopped the immigration issue. And now the blacks go back to being property. Ooh, wait. Boy, you talk about a 52 fake out. And what's so sad about it is nobody's going to talk about this on air. And see, this is what I try to nicely say about other people. I love a lot of people's enthusiasm. I love their knowledge. I love their wisdom on their shows, on their talk shows, on their TV shows. But if you ain't studied this law stuff, it's a lot of stuff you just ain't qualified to talk about. Because even if you reading somebody else's work, it doesn't mean you really understand it. Because you got to understand it in order to look at what the trapdoor is. What's the, because see, in law, let me tell you something about law that most people don't realize. Law hinges on little bitty words, and or, if or to. It's little bitty words like that the Supreme Court is arguing about. This is why Bill Clinton so brilliantly said, what's your definition of is? What's your definition of is? Because is could be a lot of different things in a legal term. A lot of different things. And so now you're talking about something that you really haven't been trained at on the radio and television, and you think you're giving it to them good, and it's not. It's not. It's just not. You gotta have somebody who understands it talking about it, not just reading somebody else's stuff, but actually can look at it and say, okay, I understand what the framers, what the legislators, what the legal aspect of this was as they were doing this. And this is why the whole Dred Scott case has always been interesting to me, because they won't change it. Why won't they change it? Again, I'm going to go back to Obama, supermajority. Why wouldn't you deal with this when you're the president of the United States and you know the constitutional law, Obama? You're not just a president like Trump. You actually have been trained and have a legal mind. You looking at this scene, wait a minute, this is dangling out here. And if this is ever removed, then we go back to this. Why not change this? Why not make it where you ain't got to vote again for the Voting Rights Act, so that people won't have to take a test to go vote? Why not put that as a permanent thing? See, it's little things like that, right? It's little bitty things like that that shows you this is America LLC. Because him changing or getting rid of or making the courts address Dred Scott would have been nothing. It would have been nothing. Because the argument was easy. Well, the framers don't agree with Dred Scott because they put it in the Constitution. They wanted us to be citizens. So thus, the Supreme Court should strike down Dred Scott and make a new precedent of the land. Nothing from the Department of Justice, nothing filed, nothing argued. Those are the little things you got to pay attention to, y'all. It's not that I'm hating on anybody. I'm trying to show y'all we get so caught up in the minutia of black, white, Democrat, Republican. Instead of looking at, they showing you one thing, but they talking in code for another thing. Jews, if you don't vote for the Republicans, you ain't loyal, because we trying to fight for Israel. What they really saying is, religious folks, you believe Christ is coming back. You believe God is coming back. Well, you know what the Bible says. The Jews must control Israel for that to happen. And I'm the one fighting for you to make sure that this happens. We're going to get rid of these immigrants. They're not going to be having their babies here and they get to be citizens automatically. It's two birds with one stone. We get rid of the immigrants. But hell, now we can make the argument that the blacks are nothing but property. They're not citizens. They're not. I wonder how many people are going to even talk about this. I wonder how many people are really going to talk about this, because this is one of the most dangerous things that could happen for black people in America. This is more dangerous than the cops right now, because if this happens, y'all, imagine it. Just ask yourself this. Imagine how they treat us right now. Imagine if we weren't nothing but property and we didn't even have the rights and the protections of the Constitution, because we're property, we're not citizens. You don't even have constitutional protection. You don't even have protection under the law because you are classified as property and not citizens. Think about that. Because somebody, if it happened and somebody beat you up, that's assault and battery. Well, you property. How I'm beating? That's damage to property. That's the way I would classify it. I didn't assault and battery you. I damaged some property. Oh, nobody owns you. Oh, then I ain't even damaged nobody's property. So what's the crime? Legally, you can make that argument. I'm gonna show you how crazy the law is. I'm gonna show you how crazy the law is. Using the same amendment, the 14th Amendment, the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. Watch, I'm gonna show you something. You listen to the WB.